So imagine waking up tomorrow and finding out that a massive, cinematic superhero like someone on the level of a major Marvel leading man just
Mhm.
completely bypassed your country's two major political parties.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah,
they just took over the entire government overnight. It sounds kind of absurd, right?
it does. It sounds like a rejected movie script, honestly.
Exactly. Or, imagine a deeply entrenched political machine
Mm.
that is basically ruled with an iron fist for 15 years,
Right.
and suddenly they just get swept completely out of their own headquarters. Why? Because nearly every single voting age adult in a state of tens of millions of people decided to, well, show up on the exact same day and fire them.
Yeah, that level of coordination is just staggering to even think about.
It really is. And, when you look at a political map, there's this ingrained assumption of permanence. You see the colored zones showing who is in charge of what, and it feels like the cement has dried.
Hmm.
But today, we are bringing you a deep dive into an event that proves just how fast that cement can shatter. We're looking at the historic 2026 Assembly election results in India.
Which is just a massive topic.
It is. And if you are joining us today, you probably want to understand the massive global shifts happening right now, but without drowning in like a sheer volume of information or a giant alphabet soup of political acronyms.
Right, because the volume of data on this specific event is frankly overwhelming. We are unpacking the outcomes across 5 major states and 1 union territory today.
Right.
And combined, these localized earthquakes have fundamentally reshaped the trajectory of the world's largest democracy.
We really have. Now, before we get into the weeds here, just a quick but super important disclaimer for you, the listener.
Yes, definitely needed.
These elections contain some highly charged political shifts from various ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So we are not here to endorse any political side, left or right. Our goal is to impartially analyze the facts, the data, and the outcomes exactly as presented in our source material. We just want to understand the mechanics of this historic event.
We're strictly looking at the how and the why completely neutrally.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. And I think we should start with the most jarring disruption to the status quo. I want to look at West Bengal.
West Bengal is, it's the perfect place to start because for the very first time, the Bharatiya Janata Party, or the BJP, actually won the government there.
Which is huge.
It's massive. They absolutely broke through what analysts have long considered this impenetrable regional fortress.
Right. And to give you a sense of scale, let's step outside of politics for just a second.
Right.
Imagine a deeply entrenched legacy tech giant. Let's call them the Trinamool Congress or the TMC.
Okay, I like this analogy.
Right. So they have dominated their specific market for 15 years. They own all the infrastructure. They have unparalleled brand recognition. And their CEO, in this case, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, is considered a total titan of the industry.
Right, untouchable.
Exactly. Then suddenly a relentless new competitor doesn't just, take a little market share. They march right in the headquarters, take over the boardroom, and completely oust the legacy giant.
That analogy perfectly captures the sheer mechanical force of what actually happened. The BJP secured 206 seats out of the 294 available in the assembly.
Wow.
Yeah, and for context, to form a government there, you need to cross the majority mark of 148 seats.
Oh, they didn't even just scrape by.
Not at all. They comfortably soared over, entirely dismantling a 15-year rule.
And the detail that really makes you stop and stare at the data isn't just the overall seat count, right? It's what happened to that CEO figure.
Oh, absolutely.
Incumbent Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee didn't just lose the state. She actually lost her own home constituency, Pabanapur.
Yeah, that was the real shocker.
Right. She was defeated by the BJP's Suvendu Adhikari by over 15,000 votes. I mean, how does something like that happen mechanically? It's one thing for a party's statewide messaging to fail, but for a titan to lose their own localized backyard.
Well, it highlights a complete collapse of both micro and macro political machinery.
Maybe.
So in any political system, an incumbent leader's home turf is heavily fortified. You've got local patronage networks, deep personal loyalties, hyper-focused resource allocation.
Right. They take care of their own neighborhood first.
Exactly. So when a leader loses that specific ground, it tells us that the electorate's desire for change just completely overpowered the strongest possible localized defenses. The voters weren't just rejecting the party's platform, they were explicitly rejecting the architect of that platform.
That makes a lot of sense. And, the rhetoric following the result was incredibly intense, as you might expect. Prime Minister Narendra Modi reacted by declaring that the lotus has bloomed in Bengal. which is a reference to the BJP's official party symbol.
Right.
He called the result a new sunrise and really framed it as a victory for good governance. But on the flip side, Mamata Banerjee vehemently pushed back on this.
She did, yeah.
She alleged literal election stealing, claiming to the press that over 100 seats were unjustly taken from the TMC.
Yet, despite those allegations from the incumbent, the underlying trend in the data remained overwhelmingly decisive.
Yeah.
And the defining metric that explains the how of this whole takeover is the voter turnout. West Bengal saw a staggering 92.5% voter turnout.
Okay, I really want to pause on that number because it is wild, 92.5%.
It's unheard of.
It is the highest polling since India's independence. If you are listening to this in the US or the UK where, a 60% or 65% turnout is often considered this massive historic wave, 92.5% is hard to even conceptualize.
It really is.
Think about the logistics. Think about the sheer physical effort required to get almost every single eligible adult to a polling booth on the same day.
It is an unbelievable metric. And in political science, sky-high turnouts almost universally correlate with an anti-incumbency wave.
Really? Why is that?
Well, when voters are relatively content, or even just mildly cynical and apathetic, they stay home. The friction of going to vote outweighs their desire for change.
I see.
But when 92.5% of a population lines up at the ballot box, it is an active, undeniable release of pressure. It means the electorate highly mobilized, highly motivated, and deeply invested in forcing an outcome.
It's just a forceful rewriting of the rules. But actually, speaking of rewriting rules, let's transition from Bengal to our second major battleground.
Let's do it.
Because while Bengal was about a massive national machine grinding down a regional giant, what happened in the southern state of Tamil Nadu was a disruption from the exact opposite direction.
Oh, absolutely.
Our sources actually describe the result there as the Vijay tsunami.
What's fascinating here is how a completely novel political entity managed to instantly dismantle one of the most entrenched two-party systems in the entire world. For decades, Tamil Nadu politics has essentially operated as a closed loop. It was a duopoly, just swinging back and forth between two massive regional heavyweights, the DMK and the AIA-DMK. They basically passed control of the state back and forth like a tennis ball.
Right. Until a literal action movie star walked onto the court and took the ball away.
Precisely.
Vijay, this massive actor-turned-politician, launched his brand new party, the Tamilnaga Vetri Kazhagam, or TVK. And they didn't just make a dent. They became the single largest party overnight.
It was incredible to watch.
They won between 105 and 108 seats out of the 234-member assembly, securing a simple, functional majority on their very first try.
And just like we saw in West Bengal with Mamata Banerjee, the incumbent leadership in Tamil Nadu faced a stunning personal defeat, too.
Oh, that's right.
Chief Minister M.K. Stalin actually lost his Kalathur seat to TBK's V.S. Babu by nearly 9,000 votes, which, essentially forced him to concede the entire state.
Wow. And to really grasp the gravity of this, you have to understand the historical context here. Vijay is the first actor to become the chief minister of Tamil Nadu, since a man named M.G. Ramachandran did it way back in 1977.
Yeah, that's almost 50 years.
Exactly. Vijay broke a 49-year jinx. For nearly half a century, the conventional wisdom among political analysts was that the era of the cinematic megastar effortlessly translating screen charisma into political domination, well, that was over.
Right. The theory was that the traditional DMK and AIA-DMK machinery was just way too sophisticated to be bypassed by a celebrity.
Yeah.
Which brings up the crucial question of how this actually works mechanically, How does a movie star win an election without a traditional party apparatus?
Right, because celebrity charisma is usually viewed pretty skeptically by analysts.
Exactly, because it lacks the localized, block-by-block organizational structure required to actually get millions of voters to the booths on a random Tuesday morning. But what the Vijay tsunami demonstrates is the hidden power of modern fandom.
Oh, I love this point, because we tend to think of fan clubs as just, people buying movie tickets or cheering at screens.
Exactly. But in places like Tamil Nadu, a megastar's fan clubs are already highly organized hierarchical structures.
Really? Like how organized?
Extremely. They have presidents, treasurers, and local chapters in every single neighborhood. So when Vijay decided to enter politics, he didn't have to build a party from scratch. He essentially flipped a switch and activated a pre-built, hyper-loyal, shadow political party.
That is wild.
It proves that a highly motivated fan base can be converted into a highly disciplined voter base.
It's brilliant. I mean, it's the ultimate political startup. A charismatic founder uses direct-to-consumer appeal to bypass all the legacy distribution channels, completely wiping out the middleman.
That's a great way to put it.
So, okay, we've looked at these two massive, unprecedented disruptions in Bengal and Tamil Nadu. Let's pivot and look at the other side of the coin. What happens when the pendulum simply swings back to the old guard, or when the status quo manages to just hold on for dear life? Let's look at the southern state of Kerala.
Kerala represents a really classic return to traditional cyclical politics. For the past decade, the state was ruled by the left coalition, known as the LDF. But in 2026, the pendulum swung back.
Wait.
The Congress-led coalition, known as the UDF, swept back into power.
And the margins there were incredibly significant, right? The UDF secured 102 seats. And if you break that coalition down, Congress took 63 seats,
Right.
the IUML took 22, and their regional allies picked up the rest of the 17. Meanwhile, the ruling left coalition plummeted down to just 35 seats.
It is a textbook example of incumbent fatigue cashing up with an administration. Over 10 years, grievances pile up, economic frustrations compound, and eventually the electorate simply decides it is time for a reset.
Makes sense.
But there is a fascinating mechanical contrast here compared to what we just discussed in Bengal and Tamil Nadu.
Yeah.
The incumbent chief minister in Kerala, Pinarayi Vijayan, actually managed to win his personal seat in Dharmadam.
Oh, wow. That's a huge distinction.
Yeah.
So Mamata Banerjee and M.K. Stalin both lost their own personal backyards, but Vijayan managed to save himself locally, even as his entire government collapsed around him.
Exactly.
It tells you that his personal, localized loyalty held up, but the overarching statewide messaging totally failed. Rahul Gandhi from the Victorious Congress Party came out and praised the result as a decisive mandate. It really underscores how heavy the crown of incumbency can be over a 10-year stretch.
It really does.
And here's where I want to push back on you a little bit regarding this idea of incumbent fatigue. I want to talk about the state of Assam, because the supposed rules of political gravity didn't seem to apply there at all.
I see where you're going with this. Assam is indeed the counter-narrative to Kerala in this cycle. In Assam, the BJP-led alliance secured what they are calling a historic hat trick. They won a third consecutive term.
And they didn't just barely win, right? The numbers are totally dominant. The NDA alliance took 102 out of 126 seats, with the BJP alone grabbing 82 of them.
Yes, very decisive.
Incumbent Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma was out celebrating a hat trick with a century, meaning 3 terms and over 100 seats combined. Meanwhile, the opposition Congress party suffered deeply.
It did.
A senior leader, Jitendra Singh, actually resigned, and Congress MP Gaurav Gogoi lost his assembly seat in Jorhat. So here is my question for you.
Okay, shoot.
We spent the first part of this deep dive marveling at the BJP storming the impenetrable fortress in West Bengal. But honestly, isn't maintaining power for a third straight term in Assam actually a much more impressive political feat?
Why do you say that?
Well, because when you are storming a fortress from the outside, you have the momentum of change. You can point at the people in power and say, look at all these problems, I will fix them. You can promise the moon. But when you are defending a 10-year record, the shine has completely worn off. You are saddled with every pothole, every economic dip, every localized failure. Surviving all of that built-up resentment and still winning a third term feels mechanically much harder than a hostile takeover.
That is a very astute observation, and it really highlights the fundamental difference in political operational strategy. You are entirely correct that the mechanics of defense are completely different from the mechanics of an offense.
Right.
Storming a fortress relies on surge mobilization. You are harnessing a massive spike of temporary, intense frustration to break through the walls, like we saw with the 92.5% turnout in Bengal.
Right. It's a sprint.
Exactly. It's a sprint. But defending a fortress, especially for a third term, requires sustained mobilization. It is a marathon.
Yeah.
It means your ground-level administration has to be incredibly responsive to prevent frustration from accumulating in the first place. You have to constantly reinvent your appeal, deliver tangible services, and keep your voter base energized despite that natural tendency toward apathy.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. So yes, mechanically, executing a hat trick requires a level of organizational discipline and voter retention that is remarkably difficult to pull off.
And we saw a similar type of retention play out in the Union Territory of Puducherry, didn't we? The incumbent alliance managed to hold their ground there as well.
They did. The NDA alliance retained control, winning 14 seats. That's 10 for the ANRC and 4 for the BJP. The opposition DMK only managed 5 seats, and the Congress Party was reduced to just 1.
Wow.
And the incumbent chief minister, N. Rangasamy, successfully defended his record and was re-elected from his home constituency of Atanchavady.
Okay, so let's take a breath and look at everything we've covered. We have the massive shock waves of Bengal and Tamil Nadu. We have the classic pendulum swing in Kerala, and we have the incredibly fortified defenses in Assam and Puducherry.
That's a lot to take in.
It is. We've examined the isolated battlegrounds, but how do all these puzzle pieces fit together?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the most inescapable reality is the sheer scale of the BJP's expanded political footprint across the subcontinent.
Yeah.
With these new victories, like Bengal and their retained territories like Assam and Puducherry, the BJP-led NDA now governs an astonishing 22 states and union territories.
22. I mean, when you pull back and look at the map of India now, the visual dominance of that coalition is just staggering.
It is a profound shift, and this macro view forces a massive existential recalibration for the political opposition in India.
How so?
Well, when you look at the loss of massive, traditionally independent regional bastions like West Bengal and Tamil Nadu, it prompts serious reflections on the viability and the future strategy of the opposition India bloc. The map has been fundamentally redrawn.
Right.
The opposition strategies that historically relied on these massive regional strongholds acting as impenetrable firewalls against national parties, well, they have clearly been breached.
So what does this all mean? If you are listening to this deep dive right now, maybe you aren't a political operative. Maybe you are just someone trying to understand the invisible forces shaping the world.
Yeah.
Why should you care about a broken 49-year jinx in Tamil Nadu or the mechanics of incumbency in Assam? Well, you should care because this entire election cycle is a masterclass in how supposedly permanent systems can shift literally overnight.
It shatters the illusion of the dried cement.
Exactly. It proves that no matter how entrenched a legacy is, whether it's a 15-year rule by a single corporate-like party or a half-century rule by a traditional political duopoly, the landscape is never actually frozen. When human beings decide to engage, when you see a historic 92.5% of a population actually show up to rewrite the script, the rules of the game change entirely. It is a stark reminder that in any system, complacency is the ultimate vulnerability.
That is the crucial takeaway here. The systems, the borders, the governments we rely on are really only as permanent as the collective will of the people participating in them. The moment that will shifts, the structures follow suit. Sometimes violently, sometimes systematically, but always decisively.
So, to briefly recap the sheer magnitude of what we've unpacked today,
Right.
we are looking at the aftermath of an election that saw historic 92.5% voter turnouts dismantling entrenched regimes.
Yeah.
We watched literal action movie stars activate fan clubs to bypass decades of traditional party machinery and take the reins of a government.
Incredible.
We've seen the pendulum of democracy swing back to the old guard in some places, while in others, incumbents executed near-impossible, marathon-level defenses of their records. It is a staggering, brilliant display of political mechanics in action. And we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive and exploring these sources with us today.
As we conclude our analysis today, this raises an important question.
Look at that.
Between a 49-year jinx being shattered by a beloved actor's fan base in Tamil Nadu and a historic 92.5% turnout ending a 15-year entrenched rule in West Bengal, are we entering a new global era? An era where individual candidate charisma, paired with highly motivated direct-to-voter mobilization, completely outweighs and outmaneuvers traditional legacy party loyalty.
That is something for you to mull over the next time you look at a map of your own country. Just remember, those lines, those borders, those designated zones of control, they might look like they are set in stone. But underneath it all, the tectonic plates are always shifting. Keep your eyes open.